up, Beth? How you doing, guys? It's we're heading into week 10. Like we're over halfway of the season. I guess
And
let's
it's
just
November.
it's November.
We are
What?
we are officially like true fall. The clock's changed. Halloween
Um,
happened.
I know. How are we
Elections
feeling?
happened. All these things. Now here we are.
How are you handling the time change? I will tell you, I am not handling it well at all.
It's actually been glorious over here. Um, my children were going to bed early, like on time, early, which means they were getting like extra sleep.
Oh,
My daughter has woken up every morning and taken a shower, gotten ready for school, is like ready to roll. I don't know. I'm going to run with it this year.
hey, I'm not complaining. What time do they normally go to bed? Like what when you say like they're going to bed early, what does that mean?
So I think you have to also understand my daughter is crazy and does gymnastics into crazy hours. So typically my 10-year-old does not get to sleep until 9:30, 10 o'clock. Um, but she didn't have practice for a couple of days and
Okay.
we were going getting to bed at like 7:30, 8 o'clock. So 7:30, 8 o'clock, which is like 9, but it's still an hour earlier than what she would normally get to bed. And it's been
Nice.
glorious.
Well,
Yeah.
good. How was Halloween? How was trick or treating?
It was good. We split up. The family split up. My husband took my daughter with one group of friends, and I took my son with another group of friends. Um, and then we all met back at home to search through all the booty and see what we got.
Nice. Yeah, it was nice for us. So we dressed up as Miss Pac-Man and Pac-Man. It was super easy. Just cut it out of cardboard and made it at home. But like my kids are old enough now where they just go like they went to parties. So Greg and I took the dog and we were walking around the neighborhood. My neighborhood rocks. Like they had a whole station. I had no idea. There's like some neighbors that have like a whole station where they have like tables and chairs set out on the front yard and they're grilling
Oh,
hot
yeah.
dogs. We've got like jello shots happening down the street. I was like, I have been missing out. So we had
Yeah,
quite Halloween.
Halloween's a big deal around here. They do a lot of the houses do that. A couple of families have the popcorn makers out, like those big party popcorn makers, and handing out little popcorn bags. They had boxed wine at one table for all the parents. There's a house that does like ghosts that are floating between houses.
What?
Um, yeah, it's a big deal. Like that, the whole street, one of the streets around us, not rocks it. But most of the houses now end up people sit outside and hand out candy instead of having you come to the door. Um, it's just kind of they sit out, they enjoy, watch everybody go by, and they have adult treats and they have kids treats. So it's a fun way to kind of see all your neighbors and whatnot. So yeah, Halloween's a whole new thing. It's not what Halloween was when I grew up.
Hell no. Like our parents were like, bye. And it was just, there was no glow sticks. You were just like out here in the world hoping to not die and get ran over by something. So, yeah, I love it. What did the kids dress up as?
Gabe this year was a man eaten by a shark. So he had an inflatable shark that was like biting up to his waist and a bloody shirt and a knife to try and fight off the shark. And my daughter was uh, Chloe from Descendants. So the Descendants, I don't know if you know, are the descendants of
Oh,
the princes and princesses and villains of Disney. So Chloe is Cinderella's daughter
okay.
in this
All
new
right.
world. So there's a bunch of movies. It's a big deal. It's a lot of fun. So
Who knew? Well, I will show you guys. Here's what Dana's husband dressed up as one year. We mentioned it on the pod last week. He is a referee and he dressed up. Go ahead, Beth. Share what this is.
he is our blind ref. He was our blind ref, and our dog is the seeing eye dog that he walked around with. So it was a fun costume, lots of fun. The dog had a blast. Everybody loved seeing it. It was probably one of my best last minute costumes because I don't really do Halloween until like 2 hours before Halloween, and I realized we need to do something. So that was all put together in like an hour and a half.
Awesome. Well, shout out to you guys because that's super creative. Loved it. What was interesting was Aaron Rodgers and the Jets finally win a freaking game and no one was watching because everybody was out for Halloween. I don't even think the Jets fans that were like watching the game. So it was pretty interesting. It hurt my feelings because y'all know I'm a big supporter of the Houston Texans. I couldn't believe they lost to the Jets. I guess something finally clicked there. I didn't watch the game, so I was out here in the world having my hot dogs and Jello shots, trick or treating, adult trick or treating in my neighborhood. So, you didn't watch any of the game, did you?
No, we didn't. And it wasn't even something that crossed our mind. I don't think we even checked scores, to be honest with you. I think we got home from trick-or-treating. We went through candy. Everybody went to bed and we moved on with our lives. It was not on our radar at all. But there was also an injury that happened during that game.
We will get to that. Yes, we will get to that. In fact, it's a really interesting injury that we cannot wait to share with you guys. But we will pause later in the on the pod to chat about that. I just want to go back to the game because Aaron Rodgers went 22 for 32 for 211 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, QBR rating of 118. He had a crazy game, right?
Great
and
game.
And CJ Stroud, which what? Like he went 11 for 30, 191 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and a QBR of 59.2. So
it's like he didn't show up. I don't know where he was or what was going on.
Maybe he had him some Jello shots before that game. They were probably like, yeah, we got this in the bag. And then they didn't. So we'll move along and talk about the game on Sunday or the games on Sunday. I will let you start because what a game. Well, there was a lot of crazy good games that day.
There were a lot of good games.
I will say I missed yours. I caught the end. We were doing this trying not to watch Tua, right? That was our thing. We were trying to watch Tua. So I was trying to honor that, but I had just come from watching the Rams game win in the last segment. Like freaking as soon as Matthew Stafford let that ball go, I was like, he's got this. Damn you, Matthew Stafford, you are still him. So that was a crazy game. And then I did switch to your game. But let's Bills Mafia have their moment here.
So Josh Allen had an amazing game as he has been recently. He's been just playing really smart football. It's been so much fun to watch. We had all the things kind of clicked outside of our defense. Our defense actually really struggled. By no means was this game a low-scoring game. There was very few punt returns, very few punts in the game, very few turnovers. There was one fumble and one interception, and that both of those changed the game. Like you felt the momentum shift for both of those. I would say when we were intercepted on the 1-yard line, that just about killed us. And then when Raheem Mostert fumbled, it brought us back. That was what we needed to say, no, we're still in this. This is our game. I don't know what to say. We played very well and went to the very end. And our field goal kicker who missed an extra point earlier in the game, mind you, who already was not having his best day, came out and kicked a 61-yard field goal. Y'all, 61 yards. And he cleared it easy. He could have gotten it to somebody in the stands to win 30-27. It was a great game. Buffalo scored 24 points in the second half. It was a beautiful game. Very, very stressful. It was not something that I could sit down and watch by any means. I was pacing. I was all over the place, but it was so fun.
I will tell you, I could feel that in our text. I was just texting. And I texted you at one point and you were like, bro, they do not want to tackle Tua. Like no one wants to tackle Tua. And Tua,
I don't even want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So Tua had 2 drives where he ran. The first one was the very first drive of the game. The very first play of his very first drive, he ran. He ran right down the middle just to say, F you all, I'm here, right? And I can only imagine everybody on Buffalo being like, have it, man. Like, go, bro. Like, we are not going to be responsible for this. And then he did one more run where he ended up diving headfirst again. And you saw the same thing. The Bills defense literally just jumped out of the way. Like, they wanted nothing to do with it and to do with him. I will say much of the rest of the game, Tua's offensive line kept him safe, did a really good job of keeping him out of trouble. But those 2 plays, man, I was livid. I was so mad. This is why I don't want to watch him play anymore. So
yeah, no, I'm with you on that. So I will tell you there's the bottom of the barrel game that was close, right? New Orleans Saints against the Panthers. Panthers pull out a win, 23-22. I mean, woo!
But hey, you know what? To them, it's huge. It's huge for them.
Listen, it's huge for them. But I mean, like, I feel like I saw patients the other day that were from Charlotte. Like, literally, they live right outside of Charlotte, and they're Chiefs fans. And I was like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Like, can we stay with your team?
It's been a rough few years.
Yeah. We got the Titans that went into overtime with the Patriots. This was an interesting game because Richardson had gotten benched because he needed a rest. And then they put Joe Flacco in. And Flacco was looking a little rusty. There were some fun memes that were going around the internet. So that was interesting. Terradome in the house. Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Hey.
Welcome to the pod, my friend. We are here. You didn't miss the recipes. You didn't miss the recipes yet. So we'll get to that here in a second. The Dallas loses again, another one to Atlanta Falcons, which I did want to watch that game, but I was missing that because I was watching the Ravens game. So the Ravens killed, who did they even play? I just had it up. What happened? Broncos.
There you go.
I thought that was going to be a better game than what it was, but it was just so lopsided. We have the Eagles.
Falcons game was hot as well. I was watching the Bills on the laptop and my husband was watching the Falcons on the TV, and it was just one person was yelling and you couldn't tell who was yelling at which game. And then my son's running in trying to figure out who's doing what. And it was a lot. It was a very stressful, maybe 20 minutes in our house.
Yeah. So I will tell you, like I said, I picked up after the Ravens game. I begged my husband, I'm like, please, can I turn this off? This is like such a dumpster fire. The Rams Seahawks game. So it was 2 teams in the same conference, Seahawks at home, and it was going back and forth. It was crazy. And it went into overtime. That's what happened. It went into overtime. And then Matthew Stafford threw that bomb. And I was like, as soon as he let go, I was like, sugar buttons.
That's the game.
That's the game. That's it. Then let's see, the Vikings win again against the Colts, and the Packers lose to the Lions, which that was fairly close to a certain degree. So that was interesting. But I want to move on and talk about WTF Monday Night Football.
I can't say I'm surprised.
There's no words. Honestly, I will say I was surprised. I was surprised with no Mike Evans, with no Godwin. I was surprised the Bucs were able to. I mean, it was close. It was a close game.
It was a very close game, obviously, because they went into overtime. But you can't. I was not surprised. I really did think that Tampa Bay could have won that game. I think I even chose Tampa Bay because it's just one of those things. They're a scrappy team. And like I said, somebody's got to do it at some point. But it was so painful to watch the end of that game. As a Buffalo fan, as a fan that knows what Mahomes can do, the second that coin toss hit, we were like, there was no point in watching anymore because we knew.
Roscoe's, what's up, buddy? You are in the house. Appreciate you joining. Yeah. How about my whole thing? Because I have to go to work and then face a Chiefs fan. So I literally was texting. I think I texted in the group text with you and Sherry. I was like, have we not learned anything from the Super Bowl?
Mm-hmm.
You don't go into overtime with the Chiefs. Like I was literally like, why? You can't give them time.
You'd rather it's almost better to lose in regular time than give with the opportunity to win, like you win or lose on that play, right? Than go into overtime and give them that opportunity because there's no coming out of that.
We literally have said on this podcast before, 13 seconds. That's all Patrick Mahomes needs. 13 seconds. We're gonna just leave it at that. I don't even.
And that's what it is, though. That's what it is.
It is. All right, Chiefs fans, I'll give you this. It's Patrick Mahomes. Like we've said that too. Like we do give him his flowers. We do give you guys flowers. We're just like just overstimulated with the whole. Yeah. Anyway.
Moving on.
Let's move on. Guys, I can't believe we didn't lead with this. Beth is coming to Tampa.
I am coming to Tampa
for the Niners-Bucks game, and I am so stoked. In fact, I was so stoked about this. I bought tickets at midnight. I didn't buy enough tickets. I screwed it all up, but we smacked it up, flipped it, and rubbed it down, and now it's all good. We have a whole plan. We have a designated driver. We have a parking spot. We're going to tailgate. We've got the whole plan going. And with that, we have our cocktail.
And I'm driving now. And I had to drive down because I couldn't get tickets cheap enough, early enough. And last year was really fly by the seat of our pants. This year was a little bit better planning. Still not quite there. Next year, we've got it. It's going to be perfect. I'm convinced.
She's driving. She means she's driving to Tampa. She's not driving to the game. We've got that whole situation covered. So here we go. We're going to share what we're going to have at the tailgate.
Yes!
With our cocktail mocktail moment. All right.
So last week we did Tampa Bay's drink, right? So I don't even remember the name of that, but last week we did Tampa Bay. This week we're doing 49ers.
Yeah.
And this is called the Purdy Relevant. Because he was always known as Purdy Irrelevant prior, but I think he has changed his game since then. This is originally a drink made by a Michigan bartender, and it was super, super sweet. While this is still sweet, it is not nearly as bad, but it still kicks quite a punch. It is coconut rum, vodka, a little bit of orange juice, a little bit of pineapple juice, and club soda to kind of cut some of that sweetness. And it's a great kind of sip and drink. It makes a very large drink, so you can sip on it for a long time versus sometimes some of our cocktails that are real strong and real little. But this one is a good one. This one will probably be a good cocktail for the game, a good tailgating cocktail. Maybe decrease the liquor a little bit for Desi, but
or not. We have a DD.
Or not. We have a DD, so we can do whatever we want that day.
We are fitting to turn up. Like, I won't put everything out there as to why this is going to be such an epic weekend, but this is going to be an epic weekend. All right. And for those of you who don't drink alcohol, we even have recipes for y'all too. We leave no one out here. This is equal fun opportunity here. What do we have for our mocktail, Beth?
We have the San Fran Sunrise, which is very similar, but again, gives a little different flavor. What I really like about this one, my kids weren't as much of a fan of this because it has a little bit more adult flavor to it, but the vanilla syrup and the rosemary really classes it up a little bit. So it's much more of your brunch cocktail than necessarily drinking too many at the game. But frozen ice cubes of orange juice, sparkling water, and vanilla syrup with a little bit of grenadine for the color change. It's really good. It's really light and refreshing. Very fun. And the vanilla syrup makes it nice and gives it sweetness without being fruity.
Love it. And it is a 1 o'clock game. So we will be tailgating in the morning. So, brunch was a good choice. Strong work, Beth. Love it, love it, love it. Roscoe says this Buccaneers game is gonna be tough. It is gonna be tough. I love though that we are leveling up. I hear the little what is it called? Like my kid's game, and it's like, oh, my health is whatever. Health. They always talk about their health. So I feel like I hear that ding. I think it's Fortnite that I kept hearing their health level up,
rises up, or yeah.
So as I'm as I'm hearing, okay, we've got Christian McCaffrey, practice window opening up. There's talking about him coming back for this Bucs game. We've got Money Moody, our kicker, is back. So his high ankle sprain is looking like he'll be back. We've got JJ. Jawan Jennings is back, so our third and Jawan dude. I love that. So we've got some folks coming back. Oh, and John Feliciano is coming back. So we've got little actually huge improvements on all areas. And I'm not going to say because I might be making that part off. When I say we were on a bye week, I literally my brain just dropped out, and I was like, okay, I need a bye week too. So I'm not going to put everything out there, but yes, Roscoe's, I agree. It's going to be a tough game, but I feel like we've got some key players coming back, and it's going to be a heck of a game. But we are going to move on to let's talk about only because I see this first. Love that. We're going to talk about Rate the Fit. So guys, there was lots of incredible outfits this week pregame, but there was one that a lot of the ladies wanted. And I'm going to tell you, it doesn't always come from a place like Cleveland. But when I tell you that Jameis showed out, okay? He was showing some chest. It was, some unbuttonedness there. He had the long trench coat on in the green color. But it was
the trench coat, man.
It was the trench coat, and it was, look at his face. He's like, I'm here to work.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it was the whole
business.
Whole package. So that was our winner of Rate the Fit this week. So go on, Jameis, do that bad thing, okay? They were doing they're starting to look a little like they got some life in them. A little pulse is starting to perk up there.
Definitely.
So, all right, we're going to move on to what most people come to see us for, and that is sports and medicine. All right, guys. So we are going to first talk about Beth alluded to it at the beginning of the show. Here we go. Allen Lazard. He has a really unique injury.
We talked about a similar one last week, I think, didn't we?
We did. It's kind of similar. So I'll kind of brush over it for those who didn't join us last week. So what it could come, Lazard is out. He's going to go on IR, and he has a clavicle/chest injury. So we talked about clavicles last week. I'm going to put up the image here so you can see the clavicle is what's in pink. Now, we talked about fractures last week, but this week, and it's probably fractured as well. What actually happened with him is you can see here. Can you see my cursor, Beth?
No.
You can't?
You go,
okay.
No.
I gotta start putting arrows in. So you can see out where the shoulder is, you see that hot pink / purplish colored outline of the bone. That's the clavicle. If you look at the end towards where the shoulder is, then that is where it becomes part of the acromioclavicular joint, also known as the AC joint. The opposite side of that, where you can see it kind of looks like it's overlapping the spine, that is where it connects in with the sternum. You can't really appreciate the sternum. It's drawn in there, but it connects in. So the clavicle, the sternoclavicular joint is what that's called. The sternum is the chest plate. It's the plate that comes from the notch below your neck. And it goes all the way down the front of your chest to just about where where people think their belly starts. And so that chest plate is there in the front, connecting it to the clavicle. So I say all that to say, what Allen Lazard has had is a clavicle injury that affects that area where the sternum and the clavicle joint lies. So I'm going to show you. There's a really cool. We have not shown an MRI. We call it Beth mid bite. We have not shown an MRI on this podcast before, and I'm really excited to show you guys this. And it shouldn't be incredibly difficult because the way that I'm going to show this to you, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. So clavicle injuries of this caliber happen. They can happen in football. It can happen in high trauma situations. It's basically when you have, if you can see on my shirt, let me see if I can do it this way.
Your hair.
There you go. So Beth is pointing to her clavicle. When you have and point to your sternoclavicle joint. So she's showing right there. That's her sternoclavical joint right there.
Sternum.
So there you go. And clavicle. And so when you have this type of injury, you basically have impact that's coming lateral to medial and hitting in and pressing. And this can pooch when you think about a pencil that you break, okay? So it makes a V shape, right? So if it's pushing in, it's going to pop this joint forward. It's going to pop it out. That's called anterior. It's going to be an anterior dislocation. And so an anterior dislocation can cause something like an injury to the lungs. So like a collapsed lung or pneumothorax is also what it's called, things like that. When the V goes the other way and it pushes inward, it can actually cause injury to your airway, to your esophagus, to structures that are underneath, including some of your major vessels. So this can be a really, really gnarly injury. So with that said, I'm actually going to show you what an anterior dislocation looks like on an MRI. So let me find where I have this saved on here. Just give me a moment. Oops.
Now, Desi, while you're doing that, does an injury like that typically require surgery? Will his require surgery? Do we know?
It can. Sometimes they can be, you can have a manual where you can move it back. Yeah, where you can manually manipulate it back into place. But yeah, if it's unstable, they'll have to do surgery. So let's see if you can see this. Okay, you can see. Can you see? It's got. If you look off to the right here, I'm showing you an MRI. Can you see the image on the right-hand side?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So see, I'm moving it right now. I'm moving it back and forth. So if you look at this part, this part here is deeper. Okay. So this is looking at the chest in different layers. What an MRI does is it looks at slices, and we're looking at the front of the chest in different slices. So that's a slice, that's a slice, that's a slice. And with each slice that I'm showing,
we're going from top to bottom, from head to bottom, or are we going from front of chest to back? We're going from head to toe.
Okay, let me go back to showing.
So when we talk about slices, are we talking about front to back, or are we talking about top to bottom?
Okay, because so there's two ways, because you can get this confused. So if you're visually looking at the image, you're looking at it like you're looking at me. Okay, so these is called frontal sections because you're looking at the front. The entire slice are slices of the front, right? But as I start to click through the images, it's starting from deeper and then it's going to come closer to the front.
To the surface.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're starting from like a cut back here, and then it's
through the top of the chest.
Each slice comes closer to the skin part of the chest. So let's go back to
Thank you.
And let me go back so that now I can show you. All right, here we go. Why does this move? Okay, here we go. All right, so starting from the deepest tissues, if you look, you can see the heart, you can see the black glob is your lungs. So look just above where these black areas are, and you'll see there's white right there. So you can see the clavicle on the right side, and you can barely see the head of the other side. So you can't see the full clavicle on what you're looking at is the right side. You can see the full partial, a good portion of the clavicle on the left side. But as I keep going through, right here, you should not see clavicle anymore, but you see the tip right above the black lob. That little white, it looks like a triangle there. That's the anterior subluxation of the clavicle. So you can tell that it's dislocated. It's not in the spot it's supposed to be in. So in fact, you can kind of see the sternum there. So this is the injury that I think that Allen Lazard has. And again, whether or not he's got any kind of lung associated injury with it, I'm not sure. So that's the injury for Allen Lazard. Wishing him the best as always. Again, just another reminder that football is such a high trauma. The injuries that we see over and over is all trauma related. It's high impact, really gnarly injuries. So wishing him the best. A dagger to the heart of all the Jets fans, on top of the already interesting season they've been having. But that is that. In other news, what also broke today, I believe they finally came out. We knew that Dak Prescott had a hamstring injury, but now we learned a little bit more details. And let me go ahead and bring up, I'll be ready there. So Beth, let's go ahead and talk about Dak Prescott's injury.
Right. So hamstring injuries are really common in football, right? So I believe it's the most common injury that we see. 75% are able to recover pretty quickly with rest and time. Hamstring injuries typically you're out for just a handful of games, rest, ice, the RICE protocol, rest, ice, elevation, compression, and elevation, right? When we look at Dak, he has something that's called a partial avulsion is what they're calling it. And so the hamstring muscles, as you can see on here, the hamstring runs along the backside of your thigh. It controls knee flexion, bending of your knee, hip extension, and because it crosses over the knee joint, it also helps with knee stability. So it's made up, you can see here, it's made up of three muscles. We have the bicep femoris, the semitendinous, and the semimembranous, and they all attach up at our pelvis.
There's an arrow in the picture.
Yes, excellent. That is where the arrow is where those three muscles attach at the top through a tendon, and then at the bottom they attach on either side of the tibia and fibula on the bottom half of your leg there, on the other side of your femur. So what we are looking at for him is we are going to have a small avulsion. So what an avulsion is the muscle pulls away from the bone. This typically occurs at the pelvis. It's where the attachment site is. It's called your ischial bone, your ischial tuberosity, and that's kind of we call it your sit bone. So it's the bone that you feel when you're sitting. One on each side. So what happens is this is very painful when you have a pull or a tear or a strain at that injury site, because it hurts when you sit, it hurts when you move your leg, it hurts when you stand, all of those things. So he is in for probably several weeks out. I know they still haven't said that he is going to be on injured reserve yet, but according to the latest article that we read, Dak is looking for alternative diagnoses to this injury. So who knows? Maybe he didn't really avulse his hamstring. We'll see.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to face the music, but Terradome did ask how does that get set and heal? I think he's talking about the Lazard injury. So most of the time, the anterior ones can be pushed back. It's called closed reduction, where you don't have to do an incision. It's not surgical. You can just kind of pop it back into place. But for most of the posterior ones, those are pushed inward, and it's a little bit hard to get that put back in place without having to go in. So posteriors, 9 times out of 10, have to have surgery. They open it up, they pop it back into place, and they probably would put a plate on that for stability. Now, just because they can reduce an anterior one doesn't necessarily mean he wouldn't have surgery. At that point, it's just how stable is the fracture site with healing as is. And those are things I don't know, because we obviously don't have the images specifically for what he's got, for what his potential fracture looks like. And again, we don't know what, if there was any lung involvement or anything else, but hopefully it was just the fracture, and hopefully he will be back. It will take probably a solid 8 weeks, maybe 6 to 8 weeks, depending, sometimes they push these things, but bones are bones. There's no real ability to speed them up. And especially with something that was as traumatic as that injury, I would suspect at least 8 weeks, but 6 if we're being optimistic, but I would think at least 8. So, okay. Yep. He said Lazard injury. All righty. So that covers our sports medicine segment of the week. Now we're just going to keep moving on along to game of the week, guys. Why did I do that? I kind of wanted to talk to you. I'm just throwing this at you, Beth. I wanted to look, since we're about halfway into the season, just over halfway into the season, the power rankings. So I'm looking at the power rankings from Sports Illustrated. And of course, guess who's number one? Who's slotted at number one, Beth? I bet you can't tell.
Kansas City.
It's Kansas City. I mean, they should, right?
I guess.
So they're seated at number one. We've got Detroit Lions seated at 2. The Ravens are at 3. And your Buffalo Bills are 4. So, you're in top 5. I like it. Minnesota's
this is a better season so far than I thought we were going to have. So I'll take every game.
Yes. Then it's Minnesota. The Commanders sitting at 6. Houston at 7. Pittsburgh at 8. 9 is the Eagles, and that one's sneaky to me. But we will be talking about. That reminds me, I have a video I want to show you guys. Most of you have probably all of you have seen it already, but I just can't stop looking at it. It's the Saquon leap of the century. The Packers are at 10, and the 49ers are at 11. Falcons at 12, and Tampa Bay's at 13. Chargers at 14, and the Cardinals at 15. So it'll go on from there. If you want to check that out, go to sportsillustrated.com and check out the power rankings they have there. Now, I did want to show this because this was such a bad mamma jamma move. I got to show this to you. So if you haven't already seen Saquon Barkley's incredible reverse hurdle jump, you're about to see it right now. Stand by.
Third and 6 for Philadelphia. Hurts has time. Now locates Barkley out of the backfield. Barkley slips 2 tackles and picks up the first down.
That is okay. One more time.
Insane.
Third and 6 for Philadelphia. Hurts has time. Now locates Barkley out of the backfield. Barkley slips 2 tackles and picks up the first down. Jumping up in the air to the 30.
Listen, if Philly does not have hit pictures of him and poster boards of him everywhere doing this, like over everything, it needs to be going over houses and cars and signs and cows and whatever else is there. They need I'm going to be really disappointed, Eagles fans, if you don't have that all plastered all over your city.
I'm going to be honest with you guys. Okay, I am Coach Desi, not just because I coach people to the best health of their life, but I'm also a track and field coach. Like seeing that, I'm like, holy cow, like the plyos this guy must be involved with. Like that is some big ups, a reverse hurdle. Like he saw it coming, turned, and then sprung up. And Terra Dome says it great. Sickest move since the human joystick. I mean, just yes. It was an exciting weekend for football between the overtimes, the freaking Stafford throw, the Saquon Barkley jumping and doing crazy. It was
the game we didn't know we needed. It's
Absolutely.
The game of the week that we didn't know we needed. It was a
shout
great
out
game.
To Philly fans, and you know how I feel about Philly fans. Well, about Philly, but honestly, Saquon makes me like them more. I still don't like their coach, but that's for another podcast. All right, so now let's talk about the games of the week. We're gonna show you Beth and I put our picks in for who we think is going to win this week. Beth's always the arrows, I'm the circles, and then we're going to go through this list and determine which game we think is the game of the week. I will tell you, was it last week? We didn't even pick last week. We got caught up in talking about.
We did. You won. You won last week.
I won the picks last week?
You did. You won big. It was like 11-8 or something. You won big.
This is huge because I have not won a game in my fantasy at all. I can't do it. It's because I'm petty. I told you this. I'm petty. So there's people that I'm like, no, I don't want you on my team because I don't like you or I don't like your team. And then I
understand.
So I got to stop being petty and then I'll actually win. All right, here we go. We got games starting tomorrow. And honestly, I think potential game of the week right out of the gate. Tomorrow night, we have the Bengals playing the Ravens in Baltimore. This game, I don't really care what you think about how well the Bengals are playing. If I haven't learned anything yet, I forgot to call the Browns-Ravens game ahead of time as the game of the week because that game was incredible. And it's just when you are playing in your conference, when you're playing people that are, your enemy, that is a big rival. Always a big game, just like your game last week with the Bills and the Dolphins. So I will be watching this game. I'll be tired as hell on Friday, but it's definitely a worth watch. I think the Bengals are coming off a win. The Ravens are coming off a win, so this could be a really good game.
I picked the Ravens, but I sure want to see the Bengals win.
I'm not mad at that. I mean, I'm definitely not mad at that. Yep. Terra Dome agrees. Division foes make for great games. All right. So then we have the Giants playing the Panthers in Carolina. We both have the Giants winning. For those who don't know.
Is that the Carolina game or no, they are not playing in Carolina. They are playing in Germany.
Oh, I have it set up like this and I didn't annotate.
Right, you're correct, but that's the game that's being played in Germany this week.
That's the Germany game. Okay, so
9:30 a.m. Everybody get ready.
That's the first game on Sunday morning. Okay. All right, so
we can drink our mocktail during that game while we're tailgating.
Oh, facts. We can do that.
Who's bringing the TV?
We're going to plan that. We will. I do have a TV. I just have to figure out. We'll figure the details out. Then we have the Patriots playing the Bears in Chicago. We both have the Bears winning that game. We have your Bills playing the Colts in Indianapolis. We both picked the Bills to win. And then Broncos playing against the Chiefs in Arrowhead. And we both have, you have the Chiefs winning and I have the Broncos winning. The Broncos have a sneaky, decent defense. I mean,
I'm not mad at it. Look, I am at this point after last week against Tampa. I decided that Buffalo will beat the Chiefs next week. and whatever happens this week will happen.
I know. I'm here for that. Tara Dome
and I
called-
also don't know if Mahomes is going to lose 2 in a row. So I need them to save their loss for next week.
Well, and his ankle's a little shaky now, right? We failed to mention that he had a little.
He's so whiny.
I don't know.
So whiny. He had to be carried off, and then he came back in the game. Come on.
I got nothing for that other than I did gain so much respect for him after watching quarterback. What is it? 2 seasons ago? So I can't really say.
Yeah.
But I like this. Tara Dome's calling the game, the Giants Panthers game, the Schnitzel Bowl. I love that.
I like it.
Suddenly, I want schnitzels at our tailgate.
Ooh, schnitzels and big steins of beer. Oh. Steins. I'll bring a couple steins.
I can't get down.
Since I'm driving now, I can bring steins along with the Jell-O shot stuff. Come
see us at this game. If you guys are coming out to Raymond James on Sunday, we will be there.
Listen, I've got an idea for future seasons. I'm gonna start my cocktail truck, and tailgating cocktail truck is coming to a city near you.
Oh,
when I retire from physical therapy.
Okay, we're doing that. We're actually, I might edit that out so that other people don't hear that idea. And anyway,
good call.
All right, we're gonna carry on. So we have a lot of the same picks this week. We have I don't think that's rocket science though. Falcons are playing the Saints in New Orleans. We both have the Falcons winning. The Niners are playing the Bucks. Obviously, we've been talking about that all day. Beth, if you didn't figure this out, she cleverly put an arrow for both because we're going to be tailgating with our third party, Sherry, who those of you that watched us last season, Sherry was our resident Bucks fan. So she was our Bucks representation on the show. So she's going to be tailgating with us. So it'll be me, Beth, and Sherry all together. And Beth just doesn't want to choose between me and Sherry. So
I refuse. I cannot. So I'll take a loss on that one either way, but I'm not doing it. And Tara Dome mentioned that Germans do beer like no other. If you were not aware, I am German. So that makes sense.
All right. We also have the Steelers playing the Commanders in Washington. Beth picked the Commanders. I picked the Steelers. That's going to be a potential game of the week, I think, also.
I think that's going to be a great game.
Yes. And then we have the Vikings playing the Jaguars in Jacksonville. We both picked the Vikings to win that. We have Titans playing the Chargers in LA. So we both have the Chargers winning that one. So I think that's all I got to say about that. And then the last grouping for Sunday, the Eagles are playing the Cowboys. I think this one, honestly, Beth, I'm going to tell you, I went back and forth. This was much like when the Browns lost their quarterback and Jameis had to be brought in, right? I kind of feel like, Cooper was able to pull the Cowboys out. Was it last year when Dak got injured? And I think they won 3 out of the 4 games that he was the starter for. And I was kind of surprised that there wasn't more of a quarterback issue when Dak came back. So I kind of think that this could be a little trippy. Maybe the Cowboys do beat the Eagles, but then I was like, oh, but the Eagles have Saquon who can do reverse hurdle jumps. So I was like, all right, I picked the Eagles. But Jets are playing the Cardinals in Arizona. We both picked the Cardinals to win that one. And then we both picked the Lions over the Texans. So anything you want to say about the game so far that we just went over?
No, I think I do think that even the Jets-Cardinals game, I'll be curious to see. I feel like the Jets can do some weird things right now, so we'll see what happens. No, the last game that we need to talk about is Monday night.
And here it is. Monday night is the Dolphins are playing the Rams, and we are split. So I picked the Rams, which incidentally is in my favorite team's division, and you picked the Dolphins, who is incidentally in your team's division. So what do you want to say about the Dolphins?
And no one's going to tackle Tua. No, nobody wants to be responsible for that. So they really did have a great game against Buffalo. They looked like the old Dolphins. They really did last season's Dolphins before recent Dolphins where they've been playing well. So I think they've been dealt a bad set of cards for a couple of seasons and a few games. But I don't know. They really did play well against us. So that's kind of why I went the Dolphins route.
Okay, understood. I mean, I can't say anything. Matthew Stafford, that's all I got. Like that. Just his arm is there. Puka's back. Which, by the way, this is a bone I have to pick. I will tell you, I already put it out there. I suck at fantasy, okay? But because I forgot to elevate Cooper Kupp when he came off of IR. So he was still on IR on my fantasy team when he's racking up all these points in his first game back. So I was like, SOB, let me go ahead and hook this up. So I finally pull him up.
I'll text you on Thursday to make sure that you check your lineup.
I elevated him. He was in the starting lineup. But who the hell knew he was going to throw punches and get ejected? And
Poor
I got
guy.
like something points for him on my thing. I'm like, you know what? Even when I attempt to do the right thing, it's all blowing up.
Who was the guy who ended up with negative yards and negative points in fantasy? Hold on.
This past week?
Yes. Did I send it to you? Maybe I just sent it to you. Hold on.
Send it to me.
Because we watched the play and it was the Miami Jalen Waddle.
Oh.
Because they played that whole kind of toss around and then he ran backwards and got sacked and his stats were 2 receptions, -4 receiving yards, and 1 touchdown.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm glad you shared that.
It was crazy. Yeah, because he ran all the way back and got tackled way back there.
Yeah, they did that weird trying to pitch the ball back. It's like pseudo rugby trying to get the ball to go forward.
-4 yards is what he had.
That is crazy.
So if you had him on your fantasy, you would have actually lost points.
Well, I'm surprised I didn't because I tend to have the folks that always lose points, but it is what it is. All right, so this is it. This was week 10 coming on board. It's loading, and we're excited for it. So Beth and I and Sherry will be at the game, Bucks versus Niners in Tampa at Raymond James this Sunday at 1 p.m. We will be there earlier. Stop by if you're going to be there. We'd love to see you. Thanks for supporting us. Be sure to subscribe and like and all the things. Come see us on Instagram. We post our picks there every week, as well as our recipes that we share. And we always put our voting that's open. I believe we put that up on like Monday or Tuesdays. Voting is opening. Let me try that again. Voting is open.
For who looks good.
For
who's looking good.
For that pregame fit, who wins it. So join the fun and all that stuff. And we'll see you next week. Happy football.
Happy football.